Okay, recording in progress. Good morning, Boker Tov. So we are continuing Masechet Beitzah. We're back, Daf Tet Amud Aleph. We got to the bottom. We'll just go back quickly and just read through the Mishnah in the beginning of the Gemara again, because where we left off is kind of in the middle, and it's a little bit difficult to pick up from scratch. It's been a week, so let's begin the Mishnah on Daf Tet Amud Aleph. We're now on to a new topic. As we mentioned, we completed the first Mishnah with the three machlokot we saw between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. We now move on to other machlokot, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, throughout the Mishnayot. And these are related to Yom Tov, and it's related to the question of Muktzah, potentially, related to the question of forbidden tircha on Yom Tov as well. We saw, the Mishnah said, Beit Shammai Omrim, point again, I read the Mishnah now because we're going to get to a Beitzah at the top of Amud Bet, which discusses the exact same topic, but has a little bit of a different approach. So the Mishnah says, Beit Shammai Omrim ein molechin et hasulam mishovach leshovach, ava mateo mechalon lechalon. So you have these dovecotes, these areas where these birds are kept. You're allowed to go up and take your bird in order to shecht it, to have it for your Simchat Yom Tov. But Beit Shammai say you can't move the ladder from one shovach to another. If it's already there, you can tilt it from one window to the other inside the shovach, inside the dovecote, but you cannot carry the ladder around. Beit Hillel matirin. Beit Hillel allow that. We said, what is the reason? The Gemara is going to explain that all of this seems to have to do with the idea of marit ayin. That if people are going to see you walking around with the ladder, Beit Shammai say, well, why is he walking around with the ladder on Yom Tov? It must be that he's climbing up to fix up his roof, which is going to be forbidden on Yom Tov. We did mention tangentially the idea of binyan, of the malacha of building, which according to some may only be a nisud rabbanan on Yom Tov, but still not allowed in any event. But so Beit Shammai are worried there about marit ayin. Beit Hillel are not concerned because they say, well, everybody knows. You see the ladder. This is a ladder of a shovach. It's not a ladder which people use to climb up onto the roof. Now here Rashi pointed out, the first Rashi on the Mishnah, he said, Kasal kedatach sulama meyuchad lekach. At this point, we think that we are talking about a special ladder that's unique to these dovecotes for the birds. It's interesting. I mentioned there are some girsaot of Rashi that erase the words kasal kedatach, because it does seem to be that the conclusion, the maskana of the Gemara is that we only are talking about a sulam which is miyuchad lekach, these special ladders. If it's an ordinary ladder, we're going to see on Amud Bet that even Beit Hillel are going to be more machmir about it. But okay, so that is the Mishnah. Again, the machloket between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, whether you can move this ladder from one shavach to another. So says the Gemara now two, possibly three ways of understanding this Mishnah. Amar Rav Chanan bar Ami machloket b'rshut rabim. The Beit Shammai savri araya omer latiach kagor tzarech, uBeit Hillel savri shavcho mochiach alav. Right, well, we've just explained. So Rav Chanan bar Ami in the first version says the machloket in the Mishnah is only in rshut rabim. The whole problem here is marit ayin, what people are going to say, what people are going to think when they see you. Well, they're only going to see you if it's in rshut rabim. So therefore, the machloket is in rshut rabim. Beit Shammai are concerned that somebody will see and somebody will think that you're going up to fix your roof. Beit Hillel are not concerned because you can see from the type of ladder that it is that it's not that it's not being used for that purpose. That is all Bereshut Rabim. Aval Bereshut Hayachid Divrei Hakol Mutar. So according to this first version of Rav Chanan bar Ami, if it's in Reshut Hayachid, according to everybody, i.e. Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, it would be permitted to go and move the ladder around. Now, says the Gemara, is that really so? Because, don't we say, V'amar Rav Yehuda Marav, Kol makom shasru chachamim mipnei marita ayin, afilu b'chadrei chadarim asur. Any place, we've made a distinction. We said the whole Isser is for marit ayin, and therefore it's only forbidden in Reshut Rabim, but it's not forbidden in Reshut Yachid. But we have a principle that anything that is forbidden because of marit ayin, kol makom she'asru chachamim mipnei marit ayin, afilu b'chadrei chadarim asur. Once we say that it's forbidden because of marit ayin, we say lo pluk. We don't distinguish whether it is in public or whether it's in private, even in chadrei chadarim, and therefore would still be forbidden. So that's the challenge on this understanding of the Mishnah. So says the Gemara, no, that understanding, that idea of Amar Rav Yehuda Marav, that is Tanaihi. That is a machloket Tanaim itself. Titania shotchan b'chama avalo keneged ha'am. Right, you were walking somewhere and you got very, very wet on Shabbat, and now you want to hang up your clothes to dry. So says the writer, you can hang them up in the sun, not in a place where people are going to see. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Osrin. Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon say, no, even in a place where people can't see would be forbidden. So Rabbi Yehuda Marav, that principle that we say that a marit ayin is going to be asur even in Chadrei Chadarim, that is what Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon are saying here. But the Tanakama who says, what? He says, Shotchan b'chama v'lo keneged ha'am. You can do it, you can hang them up, but not in public. So there we say we do make a distinction according to whether marit ayin is going to be forbidden in Rishut Yachid as well. So first version of our Gemara, of our Mishnah, Rav Chanan bar Ami, who says the machloket is in Rishut Rabim. There is no machloket in Rishut Yachid. According to everybody, it is mutar. And that is Rav Chanan bar Ami following the opinion that we make a distinction when it comes to marit ayin, that you could still do it in Chadrei Chadarim where nobody could see you. So that is all the Lishna Kama. Now we are 6 or 7 lines from the bottom. Says the Gemara, Amri Amar Rav Chanan bar Ami, a different version of what Rav Chanan bar Ami said, and it's going to come out exactly the opposite way. Rav Chanan bar Ami machloket b'Rishut Yachid says no, it's not that. The first version was machloket in Rishut Rabim, but in Rishut Yachid everybody permits. Yeah, it's precisely the opposite. He says the machloket is in Rishut Hayachid, the private domain, where nobody can see you. What's the machloket? Machloket is how far do we extend marit ayin? Machloket b'Rishut Yachid. The Beit Shammai it lo Rav Yehuda Malav. The Beit Shammai hold by this principle that anything that's going to be asur for marit ayin is going to be asur even b'chadrei chadarim, and therefore Beit Shammai are going to tell you that you can't move the ladder even in Rishut Yachid. But Beit Hillel late lo Rav Yehuda Marav, and Beit Hillel don't have this principle. Beit Hillel say it's going to be asur for marit ayin where people can see you, but it's not going to be asur for marit ayin where people can't see you. So late lo Rav Yehuda Marav, and therefore the machlok is in Rishut Yachid. Aval b'Rishut Rabim divrei hakol asur. Rishut Rabim it's going to be forbidden according to everybody. So completely opposite interpretation of the Mishnah. According to the Lishna Kama in Rav Chanan bar Ami, it's only in Rishut Rabim that Beit Shammai forbid, but everybody else and everywhere else is permitted. According to the Lishna Batra, it's only in Rishut Yachid that Beit Hillel are going to permit, but everybody else and everywhere else is going to be forbidden. Now the problem with the Lishna Batra is, what did we say? We said that Rav Yehuda Marav said a principle. He said, "Kol makom shazru chachamim mipnei marit ayin afilu b'chadrei chadarim asur." Right? You're saying that principle only works according to Beit Shammai, because that's exactly the machloket between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai if we extend that principle. And so says the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom now. It says, Lei Marav Damar Beit Shammai. You're saying that Rav is coming and teaching us this halacha that is like Beit Shammai. But that doesn't seem to make sense. We hold the halacha follows Beit Hillel in most cases. And why is Rav teaching this principle that's not actually going to be relevant? It's not going to be halacha l'maaseh because it's only Beit Shammai that holds it. So says the Gemara, no, it's actually Tanai. This itself is a machloket Tanaim. Titania shotchan b'chama avalo keneged ha'am. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Osrim. Right, so those are the different. That's the machloket Tanaim as to how we, and what the Gemara means to say at this point is that presumably it's a machloket Tanaim as to how Beit Hillel would hold as well. That's the point. So Rav Yehuda Marav would understand that Beit Hillel would agree with that principle. So it's not that he's teaching it like Beit Shammai. He would hold that Beit Hillel agrees, but it's Rav Chanan bar Ami who comes along and says, no, Beit Hillel does not hold like this principle of Rav Yehuda Marav that Marit Ayin applies even in Chadrei Chadarim, but he really holds like Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon, who are Osrim, or Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon hold like Beit Hillel. but that it would be forbidden. So bottom line is, again, I went through that relatively quickly because we saw it all last week. But the bottom line is two different ways of understanding the Mishnah. Whether we say that it applies, the machloket applies in Reshut Rabim, or the machloket applies in Reshut Yachid. But either way, the machloket between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel is whether you can move the ladder from one shovach to another. Right? Just to read the Mishnah again. Beit Shammai Amrim, Ein molichin et hasulam mishovach leshovach. Beit Shammai say you cannot move it from one shovach to another. You can only tilt it from one window to the other, and Beit Hillel matirin, Beit Hillel allow that. So that is the Mishnah. Again, whether it's in Reshut Rabim, Reshut Yachid, that's the machloket that we've just seen. So now, over the Amud, the top of Amud Bet, the Gemara now brings a Beitzah that is incompatible with the Mishnah that we just learned. So it says, Matnitin de lo ki haitana. Our Mishnah and the way that it presents the machloket between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel is not compatible with the following Beitzah. Titania, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Modim Beit Shammai u Beit Hillel, shemolichin et hasulam mishovach leshovach, lo nechlaku ela lachzir, shebeit Shammai omrim ein machzirin u Beit Hillel omrim af machzirin. Okay, so what does the Beitzah say? As follows. We're actually going to see three different opinions in the Beitzah, but let's do a Tanakama. First, we have Tanakama, we then have Rabbi Yehuda, and then we're going to have Rabbi Dosa. And it's going to be, the Gemara is going to try and explain exactly what Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Dosa are coming to add. Are they arguing with the Tanakama? Are they interpreting the Tanakama? Not completely clear, but we'll see that. But first of all, what is the Tanakama saying? So the Tanakama is Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. It says, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Modim Beit Shammai Beit Hillel, shemolichin et hasulam mishovach leshovach. So he says like this, really, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel agree. They agree that you can move the ladder mishovach leshovach from one to the other. Now, clearly, that's not like our Mishnah, because our Mishnah had said that was exactly the machloket. Machloket was ein molichin et hasulam mishovach leshovach u Beit Hillel matirin. So according to this Beitzah, no, Beit Shammai agrees with Beit Hillel. You can move the ladder from one shovach to the other. That's okay. What is their machloket? Lo nechlaku ela lachzir. Okay, it's about once you've moved it and you've gone up and you've gotten these birds and you've had your Yom Tov meal, can you put the ladder back? Can you put it back where it was in the first place? So Beit Shammai omrim ein machzirin, u Beit Hillel omrim af machzirin. So the chiddush is Beit Shammai say you can move it, you can move the ladder in the first place. All of that is going to be for the sake of Simchat Yom Tov, and that's fine. But it's when you're moving it back that's just going to be either it's just going to be a stam tircha Yom Tov, that there's no need for it and there's no and therefore we won't allow it, or maybe they're still concerned with the idea of Marit Ayin, as we saw before. So Beit Shammai say you can't put it back. Beit Hillel say you can put it back. So that is Tanakam. That's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, and that's clearly different to the view that's in our Mishnah. Okay, now comes along Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, and he says, Bameh dvarim amurim besulam shel shovach, aval besulam shel aliyah divrei hakol asur. So this is what I pointed out at the beginning. The Rashi that says kasal kadata, that you think you're just talking about a sulam of shovach. Here Rabbi Yehuda says explicitly. He says, what are we talking about? Where Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel agree that you can move the ladder wherever you want, from one shovach to another, to go and get the birds. He says that is when it's a sulam shel shovach, when it's the specific type of ladder. Again, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but apparently you can tell that it's used for this purpose. But if it is a sulam shel aliyah, divrei hakol asur. So he says that if you're dealing with a sulam shel aliyah, an ordinary ladder, which is the type that people might use to go up onto their roofs and fix up the roof, so that is going to be forbidden according to everybody, even according to Beit Hillel, that you can't use, because there we are worried about Marit Ayin. So see Rashi for a sec. Rashi says matnitin. He says diktani bolachat sulam pligi. Our Mishnah taught that it's about moving the ladder in the first place. That was the machloket. Lav ki aitana. That does not follow this Tana now of the Beitzah. Diktani bolacha modu mipnei shezorach yom tovi. Because Why? What does this Tana say? He says that when it comes to halacha, which our Mishnah was said was a machloket, he says no, they agree. They allow that. It's for the sake of Yom Tov. Okay, it's for the sake of Simchat Yom Tov, and therefore it's allowed. Now we said Rabbi Yehuda said that's only for the Sulam Shel Shovach. Aval Sha'aliyah Asur says Da'al Vadai Amri. With that certainly everybody will say that you're taking it, you're going to fix the roof. Everybody's going to think that, and Marit Ayin, and therefore would not be allowed. So that is opinion number one. That's Tanakama, and that's Rabbi Yehuda. Now comes Rabbi Dosa, third part of the Beitzah, and he says Rabbi Dosa Omer Mateo mechalon lechalon. So Rabbi Dosa says no. It's not that you can carry the ladder from one to another, but that you can tilt it. You can tilt it from one window to the other. Acherim omrim mishum Rabbi Dosa. Others say in the name of Rabbi Dosa, af medadimbo. So if the two windows, the two parts of the shovach are far away, and you aren't able to tilt the ladder from one side to the other, so then you could medadimbo, meaning you could kind of carry it, sort of lean it against the ground and carry it forward a little bit in order to move it like that. Let's see, Rashi explains. He says, Medadimbo. He says, Ima chalon rachok. The window is very far away. Ve'ein rosh hasulam magia sham. The top of the ladder doesn't get there. You're going to try and tilt it, it will fall onto the ground. So, medadin raglav shel sulam me'at ma'at. You can move the legs of it. You're not picking it up to carry it, but you're moving the legs of the ladder along, and then that would be permitted. So now, question is, when Rabbi Dosa says this, he says, Mateo mechalon achalon. What's he talking about? Is he talking about the Sulam Shel Shovach? Is he talking about the Sulam Shel Aliyah? Right? Is Rabbi Dosa coming to add on to the words of Tanakama? Tanakama who said that you can move it from one Shovach to the other, but you can't take it back, according to Beit Shammai. So is he coming to say no? Is Rabbi Dosa being machmir, saying that which Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel agree that you can move the ladder? He's saying no, it's not that you can move it, you can tilt it, or you can do this medidah, right? Maybe he's saying that he's being machmir. Or is he coming to add on to Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda comes along and says that which the Beitzah allowed you to move the ladder, that's only a Sulam Shel Shuvach. It's only one of these specific types of ladders. But if it's a Sulam Shel Aliyah, if it's a big ordinary ladder, we're worried that people are going to say you can't move that at all. So then is Rabbi Dosa coming to say, oh, actually, the Sulam Shel Aliyah, which Rabbi Yehuda was talking about and said you can't move, actually you can't move it, you can't carry it, but you could still tilt it. In other words, that way he's coming to be maker. If we understand Rabbi Dosa adding directly onto Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, the Tanakama, then he is coming to add a stringency. If we understand Rabbi Dosa coming and following along on the words of Rabbi Yehuda, he's coming to add a leniency. And again, we can ask the words of Rabbi Yehuda himself. When Rabbi Yehuda says, "B'sulam shel shovach, aval b'sulam shel aliyah divrei kol asur," is Rabbi Yehuda qualifying the statement of Tanakam? Is he saying that which Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said, that Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel both agree that you can move the ladder? Is he qualifying, saying the ladder they were talking about that you can move is a Sulam Shel Shovach? However, if it was a Sulam Shel Aliyah, Divrei Kol Asur, then Beit Shammai, Beit Hillel all agree that you can't move it. So so it's all one opinion. Or we could understand as follows: Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said what he said. He didn't make a difference. He didn't qualify which ladder we're talking about. So maybe he means every ladder. Rabbi Yehuda says, you, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, think that you can move every ladder. But I'm adding on, no, that actually you could only move a ladder which is a Sulam Shel Shovach, but not a Sulam Shel Aliyah. Okay, so those are two different ways of understanding the Beitzah. As you can see, it's not, it's somewhat vague. Either there's one opinion in the Beitzah, with two different explanations on it, or maybe there's two opinions, or maybe there's three different opinions. Okay, so the Gemara is now going to give us a story that tells us that if you misunderstand this Beitzah, we'll see you may come to Paskin Halacha the wrong way. And that's the story that we're going to read now. So again, the Beitzah was again three different stages. Number one was Tanakama, was Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who says that both Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel agree that you can move the ladder in the first place from Shavach to Shavach, but you cannot, according to Beit Shammai, you cannot move it back to its original location after I've gone and taken the burnt. That was the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Yehuda comes along to say, what we're talking about, the leniency about moving the ladder, is only a ladder sulam shel shovach. It's a ladder which is specific to these davkots. But if it's an ordinary ladder, then we say, no, you can't move it. And then Rabbi Dosa comes along and says that you can actually move it in the case where you can't move it. And again, which case is that? Either what Tanna Kama was talking about or Rabbi Yehuda, they're the same thing. He says you can still, even though you can't carry it, you can still tilt it from one window to the next, and maybe you could even go a bit further than that. That's the bright. So now says the Gemara, we are, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines from the top of the page. 9 lines from the top, the third last line. B'nei Rabbi Chia nafuk lekiryata. So the sons of Rabbi Chia, they went out to the villages. Says Rashi lekiryata is lakfarim. They went out to the villages lirot sadoteher, to see to go out and see their fields. And so they went out there. They were out in this area. The people that lived in the villages presumably did not have the same access to the yeshivot and to the rabbanim, etc. They didn't have WhatsApp groups in those days. They could send their shaylas to. So the Rabbi Chia, they came out. Nafuk l'kiryata. Kiata, when they came back, amalu avu, and their father said to them, their father was Rabbi Chia, says, Klum maseh ba'ali adchem. He said, how was it? What happened? Did you have any interesting shaylas that came up? So they said, Amru lo sulam ba'ali adeinu. Right, the case of doesn't literally mean that a ladder fell in their hands, but it means the case of the ladder came to us. Right, this was the shayla. We were there over Yom Tov, presumably, and they asked us about, or maybe they weren't there over Yom Tov, maybe they were just there whenever it was, and they asked them the shayla. They asked them what's the case of the ladder, moving the ladder from one base to the other. Rashi says, Sulam ba'ali adeinu, alachat sulam shel aliyah l'shovach. Okay, that's important. Rashi adds in the word sulam shel aliyah. So the question they were asked was, can you move a ladder to the davkot? Not the specific ladder of the davkot, not the sulam shel shovach, but the big ladder, sulam shel aliyah. So they said, this was the question we were asked. Sulam ba'ali adeinu v'tanua. We told them that it was mutar. And Rabbi Chia says, oy, oy, oy. Amalem tzuva aslu ma she'etartim. Says, you gave them the wrong psak. You need to go back and you need to tell them that actually what you said was permitted, is forbidden. You can't move this. So what was the havamina and what was the mistake? So inu savu midaka mala biyuda b'sulam shel aliyah lo pligi miklal de Tanna Kama sava pligi. So they say like this. They learned the Beitzah that we've just learned in the following manner. Inu savu, the Bnei Rabbi Chia learned like this. Midaka ma Rabbi Yehuda b'sulam shel aliyah lo pligi. Right, remember, we had 3 stages. We had Tanna Kama, which was Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. We then had Rabbi Yehuda, and then we had Rabbi Dosa. So Rabbi Yehuda said that so from the fact that Rabbi Yehuda said that when it comes to an ordinary ladder, there is no machloket. No machloket, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, they all hold that it is forbidden. So Miklal, the Tanna Kama, Sava Plegi, they learned that Rabbi Yehuda is arguing with Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that when it comes to a sulam shel aliyah, there is no machloket. But the Tanna Kama really holds there's a machloket. And according to the Tanna Kama, Beit Hillel would still allow it if it was a sulam shel aliyah. Right? Inu savo midakama Rabbi Yehuda b'sulam shel aliyah lo pligi. Since Rabbi Yehuda holds that, Miklal de Tanna Kama sava pligi, Tanna Kama held differently, and he held that according to Beit Hillel would be allowed. Velohi, but that is incorrect. That is not the proper reading of the Beitzah. Rabbi Yehuda tamei de Tanna Kama kama falesh. Right? In fact, Rabbi Yehuda is qualifying. He's explaining the reasoning of Tanna Kama. The reason Tanna Kama said Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel both agree, where they agree shemolechin et sulam, is because it's a sulam shel shovach and not a sulam shel aliyah. So that's what the introduction I gave before. How the 2 ways that you could read this Beitzah. The Bnei Rabbi Chia thought that Rabbi Yehuda was bringing a different opinion, and therefore that leaves room to be maker with the sulam shel aliyah. Rabbi Chia told them, no, you've learned the Beitzah wrong. Rabbi Yehuda is just explaining the Tanna Kama. So how do we know that? How do we know that that's the right way? Right? Rabbi Yehuda tamei Tanna Kama kama falish. Mimai. What's your proof? Because in the ratio of the Beitzah it says that you move the ladder from where? From shovach to shovach, from one dafka to another. And if you thought that really we're talking about a sulam shel aliyah, an ordinary ladder, so then why would it say you move the ladder from one shovach to another? It should have just said could have just said you move the ladder, you can move a ladder to a shovach. It's not in a shovach in the first place because it's an ordinary ladder. The fact that it doesn't say that, but it says mishovach leshovach means that it's already there, and it's one of these specific ladders. Right? Hi molechin tasulam mishovach leshovach molechin tasulam leshovach mibaile. Ela alav achikama. So it's just coming to say shel shovach in v'shel aliyah lo. If it's a ladder that belongs to shovach, yes, it's permitted. There's machloket, and if it's not, then there's no machloket, and everybody says it's forbidden. That's how Rabbi Chia learns the Beitzah. V'idach, the other opinion, the Bnei Rabbi Chia, how did they learn the Beitzah? What did they think? They said that it says miktani sulam shel shovach. It doesn't actually say a ladder of a shovach. It just says mi shovach leshovach ktani v'afilu kama shovchin. Meaning you can move it from one tavka to another to another. It's just a way of speaking, but it's not necessarily that. But it's not necessarily that specific ladder. That was how they learned. But as we saw, Rabbi Chia told them that was incorrect, and they have to go back and change the psak. Okay, so that is the first version of the story. Second version, slightly different, similar conclusion. But the second version of the story is like this: Ika da Amri. So others understand this is what happened with the Bnei Rabbi Chia. They went out to their field and they came back and they said, "This is the shaila we were asked." Amr lo hitui sulam shel aliyah ba'aliyadenu. So yeah, they say the question was not about moving a ladder, but about tilting the ladder. Again, it's a sulam shel aliyah. It's an ordinary ladder, and the question was, would you be permitted to tilt it from one dovko to the other, from one window to the other? V'itanu. And we said, yes, that's permitted. And again, Rabbi Chia Amar lahem, Masechet says, no, that's wrong. Go back and tell them that it's asur. It's not permitted. So again, what's machloket? It's now, this is based on the third part of the Beitzah. Rabbi Dosa. Is Rabbi Dosa qualifying the previous statements, or is he saying something else? Sorry, he is qualifying the previous statement. Which statement is he qualifying? So, Inusavo Maidaka Saltanakama Kashali Rabbi Dosa. They understood that which Tanakama said was forbidden. Rabbi Dosa now comes along and says it's permitted. Remember, Rabbi Dosa says Mateo mechalon nechalon. So when Tanakama said that you can't move a sulam shel aliyah, right? It's only the sulam shel shovach that you can come and move. So Rabbi Dosa comes along and says you can move it from chalon nechalon. They thought he was talking about a sulam shel aliyah as well. Veloi, he says, I know. My the kashali Tanakama ka look right. Veloi, my the kashali Tanakama ka asal Rabbi Dosa. In other words, Rabbi Dosa is not coming to be more lenient. He's coming to be more stringent. That which he's talking about the case which Tanakama said is permitted. With Tanakama said regarding a sulam shel shovach, that you can move it from one shovach to the other. Rabbi Dosa says, no, you can't move it from one shovach to the other. We're still worried about married ayin. You can tilt it from one window to the next. But if it was an ordinary ladder, sulam shel aliyah, then everybody agrees that you can't move, that you can't tilt, and that is what Rabbi Chia told his sons, and that is why they need to go back and, according to this version, they need to go back and change the psak. Okay. Ad Khan, we're up to the two dots. We'll pick up from there tomorrow. Be'ezrat Hashem.
You look at Steinsaltz, he's always good depicting kinds of diagrams. And he says, Sulam Shel Shavach is a plain rung ladder, one rung above the other, which I feel if you try to tilt it, you'll probably fall down if you're trying to go to the next Shavach. It would be best just to move it just for safety, for personal safety. Now, and that is a depiction from Tkufat Talmud. The other one is from the Tkufat Mishnah and shows the heavy ladder, which are regular steps that you walk up, and that makes it a very heavy thing. And makes a lot of sense to the theory of those who say that you can't move it on Shabbat or whenever on Chag.
Okay, makes sense.
Terrific.
Very good.
Cool.
Okay, thanks, Moshe. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Rabbi.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you.